All right, welcome back, World History. We are in Unit 7. This is video 3. And today we are talking about the Holy Roman Empire. So last time we left off, we had talked about Charlemagne's kingdom and how the Vikings came through and they decimated what was left of his kingdom, and they really terrorized the people of Europe. We also saw during Charlemagne's reign that there was a revival of learning, and he did a lot of conquests. And then there was tension between who had the most power, the Pope or the King. So, because of that crowning incident. So, we're moving on to the next empire, the Holy Roman Empire. So in East Frankland, the weak descendants of the ruler Louis the German offered little protection against the Magyars. The Magyars were like savage horsemen, kind of like Huns in Europe, and they terrorized southeastern Europe. So this is the area where France and Germany would be. Local tribe leaders called dukes assumed the role of protectors because of the Magyars. So German nobles selected the Saxon Duke Henry the Fowler to be the first of the Saxon line of the German kings. According to tradition, Henry was called the Fowler because the messengers who brought him the news of his election found him enjoying his favorite pastime, hunting game with hawks. So, as king, Henry the First forced the other dukes to acknowledge his royal status, but he permitted them to guide the internal affairs of their own territories. Then, um, we're going to see he gives the throne to his son, Otto the First. And he's often called the Great because he became the strongest German king. So Henry the Fowler was the first, his son Otto was the greatest. Unlike his father, he was not content with the mere title of king, but he sought to actually assert his royal authority over all the other duchies. That's like when you're saying multiple dukes, it's duchies. And in his struggles against rival dukes, he relied on the support of high-ranking church officials, and many of whom he had appointed to office. So these powerful bishops and abbots pledged their allegiance to Otto and supplied soldiers for his army. So we're seeing that church and government connection really strong, and the government dictating the church at the moment. So at this point, he's in Germany. He's going on these conquests. This is the 10th century, so we're talking 900s. He's king from 919 to 936. 10th century Italy was divided into a lot of warring factions. And fearing the a rival duke would seize northern Italy and threaten the monarchy, Otto crossed the Alps, took possessions of that northern Italy part called Lombardy, and proclaimed himself King of Italy. And then 10 years later, in 962, he crossed the Alps again, this time marching his army all the way to Rome. The Pope, who had appealed to Otto for protection against the Roman nobles, crowned Otto the emperor. And like Charlemagne, he had come to the Pope's rescue and in return had received the emperor's crown. Otto believed that his new role as protector made him superior to the Pope, a claim that was disputed, of course, by the papacy. And now we see the tension begin. The conquests and the coronation of Otto revived the memory of the Carolingian and Roman empires. Later German kings considered themselves the successors of Charlemagne and the Roman Caesars. Because of its alliance with the Roman Church and its symbolic association with the empire of ancient Rome, the German Empire became known as the Holy Roman Empire. But as the 18th century French author and philosopher Voltaire observed, it was neither holy nor Roman, nor an empire. The empire was built on the union of Germany and Italy and on the alliance of the church and state, neither of which could provide a strong foundation. Ooh, so we automatically know what's going to happen. Conflict. So when you see HRE in the PowerPoint, it's referring to the Holy Roman Empire. So although the Holy Roman Empire, founded by Otto, became the most powerful state in Europe, it experienced many internal conflicts. The first was a conflict of interests. The German rulers often intervened in Italian affairs. Otto's grandson, Otto III, built a palace in Rome and planned to make Rome the capital of the empire. But in focusing on Italy's welfare, Otto III and other German rulers neglected the affairs of their homeland. And this lack of attention gave the German nobles an opportunity to increase their power, and that led to divided interests in the Holy Roman emperors. It ultimately weakened their authority and hindered efforts to create a unified Italy and Germany. So the first was a conflict of interest. That's our first conflict. Our second conflict that plagued the empire was the struggle between the emperors and the popes. Beginning with Otto I, the emperors actively intervened in papal affairs, and they even began choosing the popes. And in addition, they continued this long-standing practice of appointing important church officials within their realm. Later, that will be resolved in 1122 with the Concord of Worms or Worms, but that's for another lesson. So, as reforms spread throughout the Roman Church, the popes began to challenge the emperor's authority to appoint church officials. So, that's the second one, emperor versus pope. And then our third big conflict, and probably the most damaging, was the one between the German nobles and the Holy Roman emperors. For almost a century, while the emperors had been preoccupied with Italian affairs, the German nobles had enjoyed a great era of independence. And so the situation began to change, however, when a new royal line, the Salian house, succeeded the Saxon kings. And the Salian kings, including Henry IV, attempted unsuccessfully to establish a strong centralized monarchy that would weaken the power of the great nobles. But after Henry's son's death without an heir, civil war broke out among the noble families. They were living close to a river, uh, competing for the crown. So the Civil War would further weaken the German monarchy, and it led to the development of feudalism throughout the empire. And the large regions of Italy and Germany broke up into many small states, and powerful nobles became feudal lords, forcing lesser nobles to become their vassals. And during this period, several of the strongest nobles firmly established the practice of electing German monarchs, and the power of the nobles became supreme in the land. And that was what kind of had the Holy Roman Empire die out, was internal conflict. And nobles became the supreme law of the land. And that is where we're going to end with this lesson. So Unit 7 is only 3 videos long. It's not that long overall. We are going to this week start into medieval Europe, the next era of medieval Europe, and then we'll be all set. So, oh, so sorry. I'm moving ahead here. Unit 7, 3 videos. Have a great day.